G'day friends and fans, and welcome to Tabletop News. I'm your host, the author, David Applegate, author of the books The Erotic Tales, Power Games, Into the Osman, and Erotic Tales from the Empire. But first off, I'd like to thank the patrons and other supporters who help make this channel possible. Check out my links in the description below. Buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree. Love to see you over on my Patreon. But of course, I also got a Kickstarter. But first, to the bundle of first up. Yeah. Here we go. 87%. First day, 80% funded. Hurry up before we run out. And I seriously mean it. So, grab yourself a signed copy, please and thank you. This is an all or nothing campaign. If they don't sell here, I'm just going to go to it. If they don't sell on Kickstarter, I'll just dole them out on Indiegogo and sell the rest elsewhere. I'm not going to bother with too much pleading, but I really need the cash. So, for those who know old school role-playing, now, a lot of people do associate old school with the original Dungeons and Dragons. I know that. I'm aware. However, old school is actually a broad term to the products of the early era, the pre-2000s era, with, of course, the height of that in the early 2000s. And I really think old school has been a stretch, but to many, 3.5 is old school. And I get it, because it is a much simpler time, and you can just tear all the shite out of 4 and 5 and just put all the extras into 3.5. I mean, it's very simple, easy to go, and off the bat, and there you go. Now, this is an extended run. The run has been extended. But this is a May 2022 50 Mega Dungeon bundle with nearly 5 dozen tabletop role-playing adventures for the original D20 Dungeon Crawl Classics. Now, these are split into dozens of scenarios. These are split into dozens or so scenarios where you have 3. Can be used in 3.5 in its successors, but you can use the old school Dungeon Crawl rules. There is actually published old school rules, OCR, separate. Yeah. Is it still available? Let's just quickly pop over. So I think you can buy old school rules now in the store. Yeah. Teleport fumble. Probably have to check the shop now. There you go. All right. Goodman Games. Yeah, you have to go through. Probably find it on drive-through or their storefront, but they've fumbled the link. But it is there. You could get the quick start off their site, and I think you have to go to through their store, which I think is actually linked through drive-through, to actually get OCR now. But there was quite a time, and I think anybody who's played the originals understands the simplicity of the system can be enhanced by more complex rules, but the basics remain the same. And that is a simple game loop of search and destroy. $19.95 gets you 29 titles, which is less than $1 a title. And this is the low-level collection worth $254 retail and DRM-free. And, of course, there's added scenarios and enough to keep the busiest group occupied for years. Now, this is, of course, based on the once-a-week rule that Gygax assumed that most players would only have the weekend off. Now, for beat the threshold price of $42, level up and get the 29 more titles. Again, that's a little bit more per title, but don't forget, that's both 29 and so still about $1 a title. And this is worth an extra 318 retail. Now, the low-level collection, you have the adventure begins and continues. Introductory adventures, more introductory adventures for 0 first-level crawls. Then, of course, you build up. You have levels 3 to 6 and some player aids for running crawls, including DM screens, treasure maps, and more. Now, of course, level up, beat the threshold price, and you get Castle Wicklock. Now, this is a 15-level dungeon that will take months just to explore, 761 pages. It alone is worth just the bundle, more than the bundle. It alone, bargain. Now, Gazetta of the Nine Realms gives you the Halls of the Minotaur and Thief Lord's Vault. Then we go into the Dragon Cults, Chronicles of the Fiend, start to deal with a little bit more high-level monsters. And then we got the Mont Cook's Vault of the Iron Overlord and more classics from well-respected, well-known dungeon designers. And, of course, more modules than you can poke a stick at. You know, there's a year's worth of play in pretty much each bundle over, I would say, more than a year, but at least a year's worth of play. Because some people do speedrun things, I know. Next we have Solo Rules. Now, this is a solo tabletop rules expansion from Parts Per Million. Solo rules for 14 top games and cut-ups for more. So starter collection, $7.95, gets you the basics of solo play, and level up, get 11 more solo rule sets and 14 cut-up solo rulebooks. Player's Guide to playing with yourself, basically. I'm sure some of you will definitely be keen. This is something you can do on a rainy day without having or when the internet's down. Solo play can exercise the mind and really sharpen your skills. $7.95 gets you the basic set, level up for $21.42, and you get the entire collection. Player's Guide, 3 solo titles to mystery play and 3 Parts Per Million rules, basic role-playing, masks, Monster of the Week. Now, level up and you get solo rule sets, 13 Age, 2020, The Between, Dungeon Crawl Classics, RPG, Fast Rip, Mothership, Old School Essentials, which again is old school D&D, just from a different group. Silent Legions, Stars Without Numbers, a very good one. Tales of the Loop and Trophy. Cut-ups, 14,000 text snippets to inspire fantasy, horror, space opera, western, and mystery solo games. How you play is up to you, and how you challenge yourself and how far you go. Nobody can judge you but yourself. And sometimes the best conversations we have as writers are with ourselves. And whether or not you realize it, that's RPG. You are challenging yourself. Now, Designers, Dragons, and More is the history, the highlights from January 2015 prior for tabletop hobbies. Now, the Starters Collection gives you the 70s, the best family games, and 40 years of Gen Con. Bonus collection we'll get into. But the base collection, $7.95, gets 3 titles. But level up at basically $20. You level up and get the entire bonus collection with additional titles. Now, the Starters Collection, you have Designers and Dragons, the era of the 70s, where TSR was nothing but a fantasy trip and just one of many games out there. Family games. Family games used to be everywhere. You had hundreds of titles, and these are the 100 best family games out there. 40 years of Gen Con, 4 decades of gaming. Now, level up, you get bonus collection, hobby games, the 80s, the 90s, and the early noughts of role-playing, Pathfinder and the rise of the Indies. The decline of D&D is the rise of the Indies, and whether Pathfinder took over from D&D, basically, even today. Pathfinder's pretty still much more popular, but more and more indie games, and people are playing more and more other games than ever. And of course, a lot of them are electronic. We won't pretend that doesn't happen. But we're dealing with just the basics. Now, FTL Nomad is a role-playing ebook from Stellar Gamma Publishing. The core rulebook, mecha, spacecraft, synthoids, and more. The Nomad Collection, $12.95, gets you the complete set. Faster Than Light Nomad is a science fiction role-playing game from Stellar Gamma Publishing. The evolution expansion of the Quantum Spacefarer, streamlined old-school rules, any kind of spacefaring, cyberpunk to Space Marines. $12.95 gets you all the books. You have Nomad, the High Adventure in the Near Future and Far. 3 supplements, mecha, spacecraft, and synthoids. And of course, the custom jobs, disaster relief and possible bonanza, an introductory adventure. Live the No-Lads life for just $12.95. Next up, we have Cristona Enemies. Monsters for old school RPGs from Cristona Games. 3 days plus to go. We have Essential Monsters for volumes of 1 to 8. Enough monsters to basically stack a dungeon with bosses, if you're clever. And of course, you have a quick little game, Dungeon Robbers from Outer Space, a complete game of alien astronauts. To break, look, everybody with dungeon crawls, mini games that's where these mini game books came from. People would say, hey, which you want to do? Family games on the weekend. Once upon a time, the TV was second best, and those were the early days of role-playing for a lot of us before computers. Now, whoops, I accidentally closed the page earlier. I might have forgot to bring it back up. Just excuse me a moment. All right, just excuse me a moment. All right. Now I'll go back to screen share. All right. Now we have the Tailchaser for Shadowrun. New material for Shadowrun. The Great Empty, the Endless Black. All the names for that come from space and operating in space. The characters to be here, something special or just crazy. Tailchaser is a full-scale campaign in Shadowrun's toughest alternative setting space. The characters one might play obviously going to trend towards mundane or emergent. The very few Waken that can come up here are truly set on their own. So the idea is someone with a background in space operations has received a message from a vehicle that hasn't been heard from over a decade. What starts out an operation to assist them is not merely reaching the vehicle, but performing a number of upgrades along the way and some space piracy from start to finish. Shadowrun was always intended to be on the edge, with orbital, etc. Of course, ultimately with sci-fi, you have to expand. You're trapped by your setting, and if your setting, the smaller your setting, the quickly you run out of story. That's why many original games, and believe it or not, if you look at Star Trek, it's not a big setting. It's Starfleet. It's one ship, one captain, and one crew, and quickly loops the very dozen or so scenarios from alien encounter to, basically over and over to imaginary problems. Shadowrun is expanding, and that is always a good thing. And people should be welcoming of expanding the setting, not retconning it. I know that's why the Star Wars trilogy failed, because it tried to retcon Star Wars. Grimwild, a cinematic fantasy role-playing game, a unique system from Oddity Press, streamlined, character-driven, cinematic fantasy RPG. The goal is simple: D&D heroic fantasy with 12 classes, super monsters, match them up against fast cinematic narrative rule system. Dramatic, over the realistic, minimizing tracking, low prep for the DM, maps on the fly, etc., etc. Everything you need. I know everything is geared towards dumbing down, but I know it's a new system. I know I personally got nothing against simplifying the rules, but eventually you're gonna. My problem with simple rule systems is that they limit the stories. You're gonna run into scenarios where you say, "Well, we're out in the desert and we're gonna walk around in knight's armor." In reality, you're not. Same in the forest. You're just gonna run into scenarios. You can't just walk around in armor all day. It's actually the rules don't really reflect how even how annoying basic body armor can be. Sticking to your skin, weighing you down. I mean, it's just hard sometimes. Again, this is not a real life simulator, I know, but I'm just trying to think of scenarios where this is great for swift games, where you don't need much setup. Somebody comes around and you just get into a game of bards, druids, clerics, rogues, sorcerers, warlocks, wizards, etc. All the familiar abilities, pretty much just cut and paste your 100 classic monsters onto onto some paper and scribble away with some quick dice rolls and pat each other on the back. I mean, there is, it's like a first-person shooter. This is the Doom of D&D. Right? You have your weapons, you have your basic enemies, no complex rules, and you have some even stuff for solo play. You can tweaks, science, artificers, etc. So there is expansion, there is some depth that can be added to it. So it's not entirely just cut the fat, so to speak, because I know a lot of people from 4 onwards and 5 were pretty disappointed, but most of that disappointment didn't come from the complexity of the rule systems. I think it came from the economy of trying to keep up with too many releases and too many changes to the fundamentals. Now, all of this, of course, is brought to you by my patrons. No, I don't have many, but it's a start, and I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're a free member, you get a free map. And you get a second map if you're a recruit. But if you become a full member, a squire, you get 4 gridless maps. And if you're a knight, you get the same maps with grids. Of course, all the rewards. But if you just want individuals, you can buy them individually. And of course, you get all the notifications. And another bonus, and what you're really doing is you're just funding artwork for my future coming projects, which I will be probably discussing soon. I appreciate your time. I understand just everybody's busy, and a lot of people right now are hopeful that things are going to get better, and we do. I mean, for a lot of us, it's the 80-20 rule, isn't it? 20% always do well, the 80% struggle. But for the bottom 60%, it's stagnant. We have not seen a rise in years, and I've seen a lot of us have slid backwards. It's very hard for the people at the bottom when they see idiots get ahead, people with no talent get ahead, and it's hard because we rely on word of mouth, particularly, and if that word doesn't spread well or far, we do not succeed. Whereas idiots, they're lolcows. People flock to lolcows to laugh at them, but the performing monkeys are getting all the attention right now, and all the money, and all the views. Anyhow, thank you for watching. I'm trying not to rage bait and scream at the screen. I'm trying to appreciate the fact that whether it's 100,000 or 100 or 10, it's the same audience who love, who appreciate a good tale. And I'm bringing you the tools that take you there far and beyond reasonable savings. You're getting role-playing at up sometimes a tenth of the cost. And even if you bought a bundle every few months, you're going to have lots of material on your hands. So if anything grabs your fancy, I mean, if you want reviews, if you want an inside look, let me know. And if you want me to look at your product, let me know. I've done it for Snowy Maps. They funded they fully funded their project. And and even though a few may have only come from my channel, every little bit helps, and we help. I keep hearing about everybody saying how we help each other rise. Well, thanks to the few who helped me rise. And will keep thanking you for as long as I can. So please like, share, subscribe, support the channel, check out the links below. Join the chat before I continue, of course. Shout out to the Men's Room and Anime Night 1992, 2 channels where you appear on. If you'd like to donate to the channel, you can do so for Future Fantasy at Ko-Fi, or my preferred method is you join my writing Patreon or my RPG Patreon. A lot of people prefer my RPG Patreon. I understand it. Please and thank you. You buy my books, buy my merch. But if you want to be an advanced reader, you join my writing Patreon. Not everybody does. I appreciate it. For those who do, even if it's for a short time, that's just the nature of the game, isn't it? But of course, as always, the goal is to sell books. Buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree in the description below, where you can find my link tree in my profile or use the QR code on the screen. Please and thank you. I really appreciate any and all support. And I'll see you in the next video. And hopefully some of you will get my Kickstarter fully funded. Please and thank you. And I'll see you later. Bye for now.